Welcome to the north, where the world's hardest riders are forged in the crucible of perpetual damp and mud. Today I've pulled out a very small selection of my personal mountain bike collection for this northern themed restoration project. The theme of this project is this brand here, Pace Racing, which started in North Yorkshire in what must have been, I guess, the late 80s. This fork is actually a late 90s RC36, which was the first bit of pace I could ever lay my hands on. The original RC35 from the early 90s was an absolute phenomenon. It was a carbon Kevlar suspension fork, which was suspension like nothing that the world had ever seen before. And even by the time this thing came out, it was considered to be quite an incredible piece of kit ahead of its time. So this now lives on my S-Works single speed, which I use to tow my toddler's trailer around. Actually, this isn't in today's video, but this is a sneak preview of something that's soon to come on this channel. This is a kind of rolling parts bin. The whole bike is probably worth about as much as a tube of toothpaste. It's literally just stuff I had lying on the floor of my workshop and decided to cobble together onto a frame I scavenged. And you can see it's got a 105 chain set and a almost completely worn out two-pace saddle off a 2010 road bike. It's got an LX shifter from the late 90s that I don't think I'd ever used. It really is a dog's breakfast. So we're going to look at this another day, because I'm going to convert it into a proper 1x10 setup, which will actually make it quite a nice and usable bike. But anyway, back to today's theme, which is pace. Around, well, probably more than 10 years ago, Pace sold its fork business to DT Swiss and became known primarily for its frame building. This, I think, is a 2012 hardtail frame, which is a lovely adventure bike I built in the last decade using the bits off a 2002 S-Works, which I destroyed. This is a beautiful bike, completely out of date, 26-inch wheels and a triple chain set, but it's absolutely flawless. But the Pace bit that we're going to talk about today, which will be familiar to any viewers of this channel, is this RC30 second generation rigid fork. Now, we've talked about this S-Works a lot. It is pretty much complete. I know it's one of the most popular bikes on this channel. It now has full XTR, a full titanium bolt kit, and it's got to the point where it's now so lightweight that in order to stop it blowing away in a light breeze, I think we need to do something to this front end. So I've decided to powder coat the fork legs, simply because re-chroming is beyond me, and also something needs to be done. Look at the state of it close up. So what I'm going to do is take inspiration from one of the generals, one of the legends of YouTube, which is DB's Retro MTB Workshop. If you've watched his channel already, he restored a first generation RC30 fork, did a beautiful job, restored it to gloss black to put on an orange for the full North Yorkshire early 90s effect. Obviously, I've said before, this is actually a very, very high-end, top-end, in fact, American race bike from 1994. So a Pace fork is not necessarily the first choice of fork that you'd expect to be on it, but if I was rich enough back in 94, it is the fork I would have put on it, so I think it looks the part. Anyway, let's get to work. What makes this fork a restorer's dream is that it's fully modular, which means that it's actually bolted at the crown, which very few forks nowadays are, which is fantastic news for today, because all I need to do is with one 5mm Allen key, undo these beautiful titanium bolts, loosen the ones at the steerer and completely take out the ones at the fork leg, and the legs just drop out individually. Then they can be sanded, stripped, masked at the appropriate places, and go into my DIY paint booth. More Pace trivia. The founder of Pace, Adrian Carter, is still there. I spoke to him on the phone a few months ago when I started this particular restoration, and he was very kind enough to supply me with the shim and the steerer to make this fork fit the S-Works. And he told me, interestingly, that these forks are completely impossible to reproduce or replicate, because the original tooling got modified and destroyed over the years as they evolved the products. So these early forks, I guess, are only going to keep going up and up in value. Certainly this one is going to be worthy of a place in the Museum of Modern Art when I'm finished with it. One for the tool nerds here, original first generation Black & Decker workmate. I guess late 60s? No idea, but anyway, thanks Grandad. Much as it hurts my soul to bin original 30-year-old factory decals, I'm afraid needs must. So quick blast with a plastic razor blade and heat gun, which is the correct solution. This should at least be painless. This is the bit that's boring to watch but extremely satisfying to do. I'm going to start sanding it with a number 80, which is rough. Then I've got a medium 180, and then I'm going to finish with an extra fine 400. And then these should be nice and shiny and smooth, ready for the paint. Right, I got bored quite quickly. Sanding chrome is hard. So I've busted out the mouse detail sander. Let's see if we have any more luck with that. Right, these will do. They're as sanded as they need to be. There's still a bit of surface pitting, but it's smooth to the touch. And what's most important is the paint that I've chosen, which I'll be revealing shortly, is self-priming, which means after a couple of coats, plus a clear coat, it'll have a lovely, smooth, shiny gloss finish. So these forks don't need any more sanding. What they do need is to be scrupulously clean so that I can get rust treatment into these little crevices. Once that's done, it's time for the masking. In case you're wondering why I spend all my leisure time restoring rusty bikes instead of priceless vintage motor cars, here's the answer. She spent all my Bugatti money on scalloped splashback tiles. Another household products tip, always use car shampoo. Word on the street is the fairy liquid that this lad's got has got salt in it. If that's true, which would kind of make sense, then of course that's going to corrode your metal. So always stick with stuff that is designed for washing metal. Right, the paint's arrived, so it's time to talk colours. I have been suffering from a Shakespearean level of inner turmoil for however long, thinking about colours. The Specialised S-Works, as you will have seen, was originally specified in a dark grey on the basis that it was very much a nod to the old school. It was a bike for the purists. It had to contrast with the very brash, bright red M2 of the day. So I wanted something that would set off that dark grey perfectly. The chrome forks, as you've seen, did look very nice, but I wanted a change. So I called my very dear friend Katie Price, and this was her recommendation. There's pink, there's hot pink, and then there's neon pink. And I'm going to empty this entire can onto this fork. I don't know how many layers that's going to be, but it's plenty. Then I'm going to add at least 2 layers of clear coat to give it a gloss finish. So it's going to be nothing if not obnoxious, which is absolutely my style. Right, fast forwarding the preparation work, but here's a very quick guide. First of all, we've got this little space heater. The spray.bike, which is the paint manufacturer website, specifies minimum temperature and humidity settings for this to work. Obviously this is the north, so a heater is essential. We're indoors, but we're in a workshop, so I've also manufactured this paint booth, directly copied from the legends of YouTube. I think DB's Retro MTB workshop built something very similar. He also built a hanger out of a spoke, but I'm afraid mine's miles better than his, as you're about to see. It pokes through a hole in the box, and then you screw a spoke nipple on this end, and then it dangles down, and the fork legs go in each of those V-shaped grooves, which means you can spray them both at the same time, which I think is genius. Next, I've masked off the dropouts, the crown clamp area, because as Dan pointed out on his restoration, the tolerances here are minute, so you can't paint it, otherwise it won't fit back in the crown. And finally, the cantilever brake bosses, not only have I masked them, but I've also put some cheap old bolts in them to protect the threads, because the inside, where I've also treated with rust treatment, I don't want paint going down into that thread. First of all, a correction. I said earlier I was going to be powder coating these forks. Of course, that's what the pros do. This is in fact an acrylic spray can. I'm hearing great things and seeing great things about spray.bike. I have never tried it before, but I saw MonkeyShred's recent video where he tried it and reported back very enthusiastically. And of course, oldshovel in the US has been using this to great effect for a long time. So I've got high hopes. Also, despite never having painted before, I already feel like a pro purely because of the quality of my paint booth. As you can see, the hanging solution that I've manufactured is worthy of some sort of award. Look at this. You can spray them both and then you can turn them like some kind of hog on a spit for perfect 360 coverage. So enough fooling around. I think it's time for the first coat. We're rocking and rolling. That is a lovely even first coat, nice matte powdery finish, self-priming, so it's covered up all of the imperfections in the original metal. There are a few imperfections from just my amateurish handling of the spray can, but we'll give that 2 hours to cure. We'll give it a going over, very light going over with some wet and dry sandpaper to key it for the next coat. Couple more coats, or as much as is left in the can, and then onto the decals and clear coat. Okay, it's the morning after. A beautiful even finish. Got my little heater going to prepare the paint booth to the correct temperature and humidity. Today is clear coat day. Now, according to our friends at Spray.bike, we have to do, I think it's 1 coat for a matte finish, 2 coats or more for a gloss finish, so we're going to empty this entire can on for super gloss. 8 shots of espresso to steady my hand, and of course the decals. That is not an artist's impression. These are actually proper, professionally reproduced decals from Retro Decals, which I've not tried yet, but they look nice. All right, here we go. With reference to my earlier comment, it's a very good thing that I am restoring rusty old bikes and not the aforementioned Bugatti Atlantic, for many, many reasons. I think a circus monkey probably would have done a better job of this paint than I have. I've done at least 10 things fundamentally wrong, and I might as well share them so I can at least salvage this video as educational or entertainment content. Right, first thing I did was this little heater, which I said was necessary for the correct temperature and humidity. What I did that was ridiculously stupid was I left it running while I was spraying, and what that has basically done is coat the entire inside of my workshop, every tool, every bike, in a sort of fine dust of neon pink. So that was pretty stupid. Next thing I did was massively overdid the paint. As you can see, I was a little exuberant in my urgency to make this as deep a pink as possible, and what has ended up happening is the finish is a kind of crusty, sandy texture because of the overspray. The next thing I did was run out of paint before doing the upper side of the canty bosses, so there's a kind of bare metal fade on top of where the brakes sit, where I forgot to paint. Ridiculous. The next thing I did was I overdid the clear coat, so you can see where it's run down. What else have I done? Oh yeah, I didn't bother doing a colour match and checking the exact colour to see if it matched the existing pink bits on the bike, and it doesn't. It clashes quite horrifically. So all in all, it's been a complete disaster, but I'm still really excited to get the bike rebuilt, just because I think if you stand back and squint a little bit, it's still going to look amazing. All right, sports fans, there it is. Could a circus monkey have done a better job? Yes. Do I have better taste than a circus monkey? No. I am absolutely in love with this fork. I think it looks amazing. I don't care that it clashes with the grips and the cable housings. I don't care that close up it looks like it was put on with a 6-inch brush. I don't care about the destruction and heartache that was caused in the process. I think that looks mega. However, I'm more than happy to put it to the vote. If you would like to see me strip this fork and start again, please let me know in the comments. But you might have a fight on your hands.